Alright, hello. So, you guys seem to enjoy this setup a little bit more, so I swapped things around a little bit in these videos. But let's get to it because Devstream 76 is a bit of a doozy, and there's a lot of different things that I feel a lot of different ways about in here. Most of it is good. Most of it, I think, is good on the whole. There's a couple things I'm very, very worried about. But first is Lunaro. Lunaro for consoles, that's going to be hopefully at the end of June, possibly the beginning of July. They're going to be toning down the tackling, which has already gone live on PC, I believe. I just haven't messed around with it. And there are going to be fixes for people rage quitting constantly because they're losing. So, those are all good things. Improvements to Lunaro seem fine, if they're actually improvements. I've been having a lot of fun with Lunaro. Granted, I only played it for, like, maybe 3 or 4 hours now. But it's been really fun for me, just overall. And I believe it will continue to be. I think it's probably the best way to get Conclave rep, because Conclave itself, like regular, kinda sucks still. But it's nice that that's been added for people that want to play it. And I hope it does well. Hope it's a good thing. But, moving on, we have the next two big updates that we're going to be getting. The first of which is Spectres of the Rail, and the last is War Within. So the release schedule for this is that Spectres of the Rail will be coming before the end of the month, and War Within will be just post TennoCon, which is early July. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be going on with that. So first of all, Spectres of the Rail is going to include Kvatz, the new Ark Wing, and Star Chart 3.0. Star Chart 3.0, we will go into way more detail kind of at the end here when I want to talk about a lot of other stuff. But first of all is Kvatz. They're going to share a lot of mods with Kubros. Also, they're going to be putting in the thing where the puppies or kittens can roam around your ship. So for those of you that are into that, that'll be a thing. Also, there's no longer a wait time on maturing your Kubro slash Kvatz. You'll just be able to be like, hey, make that a big dog, or make that a full-size cat, and it will just happen. So the wait on that has been removed, which is really nice. And you can keep them as kittens slash puppies forever if you so choose to do so. The new Ark Wing looks like this. Visually, I think this is probably going to be my favorite Ark Wing. Like, I like the Elytron, but this thing looks fantastic just based on this concept. Also, I'm really excited that we're finally going to be getting a support Ark Wing, so that like JV will have maybe a more interesting like outside set of gameplay. That's kind of the big hope with that. Although, as we'll talk about in a little while, I'm a little bit worried about Ark Wing on the whole. But let's talk just a little bit about Star Chart 3.0. So, the first note I have here is that planets themselves look like a huge mess. But we're just going to show the overview here. This is what it kind of looks like it's going to be now. I don't much like this hugely, but as long as like you're moving out in the ring as you go, I think it will actually be fine. I'm not like super jazzed about how it's just like, where am I going right here? But I think once you zoom in, that problem kind of gets solved, and the zoomed in view looks like this. So now this has a lot of different problems, I think. And not like a lot of different problems. So, okay, so you can like take the little roads out, these little like chevron looking things, where you can go out here to, or down here to the moon, down to Venus, and like left out of here and all that, and like your frame is back behind you, which I think can be a little weird for some of the UI stuff. But like all that stuff is fine, and it's a lot more like Star Chart 1. The weird shit that I think is kind of bad is, like, this just... like, what's going on the planet? Like, what is actually happening there? Like, you can see the raids on Earth, and those are those little points. But, like, are all these other points, like, are you still going to have to spin the planet, and, like, there's just, like, a bunch of, like, curvy-ass shit going all over connecting these? It doesn't seem organized, which... I would rather it be organized than, like, accurate to, like, where you're supposed to be on Earth, because that shit doesn't really matter, because tile sets are randomly generated. Like, with the exception of if the raids were like, oh, these are specific points on the planet, that's one thing, but I think it's, like, really, really messy. However, they said this wasn't final, and I trust that they'll figure it out. Granted, there's not a lot of time left for the figuring of that stuff to be done, and I'm a bit worried about it, but I hope it ends up great. Hopefully. The big thing that I want out of it is, like, for direction for new players. But the other thing, of course, that I have on these notes here is Junctions. So, Junctions are going to be mastery tests-like, based on what they said, in that to go from, say, Mercury, it's like, oh, well, now I want to go to Saturn. There's going to be a junction where you're going to have to essentially start up the rail to go to Saturn from Mercury. So, it's going to be a test. This is the, like, area that they loaded into to show, then, like, forward into that room would be the test starting to, like, turn on this place or whatnot. And apparently whatever is with this is going to be the reason behind calling this update Spectres of the Rail. And, apparently it's going to have unique rewards attached to it. There's going to be an event when this initially launches so that veteran players can get in on doing all of this stuff. And it seems like it should be good. I feel like it's a good thing to add in to have, like, some tests and some rewards added into this. Also, this is where all of the mastery for all of the entire star chart is going to be. So getting all of the mastery on the star chart is just going to be doing all of the junctions, which was honestly probably going to be a lot easier for newer players to get all of the mastery on the star chart, which is really nice because it means you can progress a lot faster for, like, through the early MRs and get into, like, the MR that matters a lot more. And that should be good. Hopefully. Next, we've got Titania, and that's going to be post-TennoCon, which means that I have, like, started, like, full speed ahead on getting my, like, new, like, Warframe, like, grading stuff and, like, full review, like, full roster thing done. Because I said that was going to be before the end of the month, and Titania is confirmed to be next month sometime. So, that will be done as soon as I can manage to get it done. I have been incredibly busy lately. But I'm working on it, just so everyone knows, I suppose. And as for what Titania looks like, she looks like this. This is, like, just a shot of her head. This is, like, basically all we got. And also, you'll notice the other thing that's over there that's in the ship. We'll talk about that in a second. But, first, I want to talk about Ark Wing. So, there's an entirely new movement system added to this that I don't know how I feel about. It looked like a better way to control that type of thing in terms of, like, feel, but it looked slow in terms of actually being able to, like, quickly turn and shoot that enemy. That stuff seemed super, super slow, like the slowest it's ever been. And that was worrying to me, because going fast is, like, one of the really fun things in the game, and Ark Wing right now is pretty fast, and it's a little clunky to control. Having your reticle be disconnected from, like, only being, like, stuck in the middle of your screen and moving much like if you're into the Star Citizen stuff, moving a lot like you're flying a ship in Star Citizen, that stuff seems really rough. And I'm worried about how it will affect our ability to fight in Ark Wing, and I'm especially worried about what it's going to do to JV. I imagine when this drops, JV will be incompletable in terms of, like, it will be just buggy as fuck. Like, so buggy, or if we actually get physically slowed down, the runs to get inside JV in Part 3 will just be fucking impossible. Without shield boosters, of course, which is whatever. So I think there's going to be, like, hopefully a lot of enemy review if this is actually going to be limiting our movement in terms of the speed at which we can turn and stuff. Because, like, snapping to an enemy and shooting that motherfucker is really, really important in Ark Wing right now. Like, if there's an Ogma and he's, like, 100 degrees to your left, you need to be able to snap and shoot that motherfucker, or else you're dead. Like, you don't have time to be like, oh, let me just careen slowly and I gotcha. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, with the enemy design, there is absolutely no... We get no mercy from enemies in terms of their ability to just be like, fuck you. So, I'm worried about how that will be. They showed a new game mode for Ark Wing as well called Pursuit, where there is a, like, courier ship that you're chasing down and disabling so you can get something from it. That game mode actually seems like it's probably, like, the most unique / fun one of that. It's like Capture in space, but with, like, a weird twist. It looked like a lot of fun to me, honestly. It seemed super, super good. Hopefully that is how we get the new Ark Wing, so that we can all get more used to flying. But yeah, or Clan Tech. I would not be opposed to more Clan Tech Ark Wings, so that people would have an easier time getting away from the Odonata. Other things before we talk about that stuff that I showed with the Titania image. The reworks. So, the Ashes Bladestorm is being reworked. We've known this for a little while since they talked about it before, and they want to keep it. They want it to be like a more active ability, and they tried just having it be like a World on Fire AoE, and they said it was very, very overpowered, which I can see why that would be overpowered in a lot of ways, depending on like the speed at which it would be happening. But I don't know. I don't know if Ashe is going to make it out of that, because so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I've noticed a trend, and none of these things I'm about to say are like definite, but it's just something I've noticed. Warframes that were one-trick ponies that could completely trivialize certain things have gotten bad reworks. And what I mean by that is that Saren used to have a thing where she could like easily clear low-level enemies just by hitting 4 constantly, and it was nothing. And Saren wasn't good then in terms of like actual like design or any of that shit. And like just on the whole, like you couldn't like in the end game levels, she still wasn't doing much even in her first iteration. And then she got a rework that is still a one-trick pony, but in a worse way, and doesn't like bring a whole lot to the table, and is outclassed by other Warframes. And now with Mag was a one-trick pony. She killed any Corpus mission, just completely obliterated it. And that was shitty and too niche, and it was bad design, in opinion Brozime. And I think that needed to be changed, definitely. But the rework that we got made her a one-trick pony that only uses Magnetize now, and that's also shitty. So I'm really worried about Ashe. I'm really worried that he's going to be changed to be another one-trick pony, like just a different, worse trick, and that's what I'm worried about with that. And then Limbo is next for like a big rework, and right now Limbo I don't think trivializes anything really in terms of like, I mean you like Limbo does some stuff. There's some neat little tricks that Limbo's got, but I don't think Limbo is meta enough that he will get a bad rework. Is kind of what I feel about that, because the Warframes that we've seen improve are Warframes that were either middling to bad. Like, Volt was middling, now he's pretty significantly improved. I'd like to see a couple more tweaks still, but he was fine, and he became more fine, and I think that's, like, Excal was fine, and he became more fine. Or, well, he became great, actually, whenever he got his rework. Frost was decent, but a one-trick pony, and they made him not a one-trick pony anymore. And that's, I don't, the reworks are weird. Let's move on to Void projections. So this is the #1 thing I am the most fucking worried about super hard. Like, the absolute most possible. So, in the next update, before the end of the month, the Void is going to be gone, as we know it right now. And this little thing here is in your ship, and it's a placeholder. It's called Projections right now. I imagine it'll be called Void Projections. I assume. And this is going to be used to create quantum blueprints, or I think that's what it's called. Quantum projections is what they're called. Blueprints, projections. I think they're the same thing, basically. So basically, you're going to get and create quantum projections out of energy, and then you're going to have to take the projections to void tears that are going to be randomly placed on, or they're going to open up randomly, rather, on the star chart, and you'll have to charge them up, and apparently void tears are going to offer unique gameplay. What that means, we do not know. If it's going to be the unique gameplay that is the same exact damn shit every single time, that sucks. But then you're going to come back to your ship and reveal what the item is. So, at this is, whenever they were explaining it, they got to this point, and I went, what the fuck? Because that doesn't sound fun at all. Like, that sounds really shitty. But then they moved on. They moved on to say some other things. First of all, our keys are going to be converted to projections, which is cool. And then, I don't know if it's cool, actually. It depends on what the fuck exactly projections are going to work out. But on the RNG, on the projections, their way that they're going to be reducing RNG, which this is good stuff, is by creating residuals that will come out of all the projections that you use. So basically, whenever you use a projection and you get an item, you'll get a residual, and whenever you use that residual on your next projection, it lowers the chance that you're going to get the thing that you already got, essentially. And, like, you can keep piling them on, it sounds like, and it will be, like, eventually you're gonna get the item you're looking for, which reduces the, like, getting the same item for literally 40 hours. I assume that it would be like, oh, you've done this 10 runs, you've got a significantly better chance to get the thing you're actually looking for. So the loop would be to get projections, seek out tears, and then reveal parts. And then put residuals into, like, your new projections, and then seek tears, and then reveal parts. The bad shit is, if tears are not always available, that sucks. Because, like, being able to just go and do that shit is pretty fucking important. Because farming prime stuff is literally everything. Like, such a huge... Like, all the people that are at the end of the game that only need prime stuff now, basically, like, that's what they're doing. Like, people are just in the void. Like, if you're not in the void and you're not in raids, you're doing Draco. Like, that's kind of how it is right now. So if this isn't always available, I think it's going to have a really negative impact on the game. Also, bad shit is that with the projections, apparently you're going to be able to build up energy to, like, create projections. And there's going to be a cap on it, which basically means that they've capped the amount of keys that you can get. In like, essentially, that's what it is. So, like, right now, I have, like, 100 T4 defense keys, because I've been playing a long time. But what if I could only get 20 of those keys ever? Yeah, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Having a cap on that seems shitty. It seems like a way to make it harder for us to get stuff. Like, just straight up. Like, depending on how hard it is to get that energy, that seems shitty. Like, just actively bad. Like, limiting me to, like, an energy pool to create things to try and farm for what I want to get sucks dick. 100% of the time, that sucks. It really sucks. And I'm okay with it being, like, limited energy, as in, like, per day, you can only try and farm this part 20 times. Okay, you know what? That's a lot higher than I think an average player would probably go and do this. Like, it makes it so that you would want to move on and do other things and not farm a part for, like, 8 hours straight. But at the same time, there is a lot of people that probably want to farm things for, like, 8 hours straight until they get the damn thing. But, like, it's really... It's, I don't know. It depends on how you get energy. It depends on how you get energy and how limited it really is. And it could be a perfect balance of the two things, and it could be, like, totally fine and great, but it is, like, the way that they presented it seemed really, really worrying. On the good news side of things, ducats are going to stay the same, so you're still going to be able to trade stuff to borrow, and apparently he's going to be able to, like, give you special projections to go and farm certain things, potentially. They kind of offhandedly mentioned that one. Other good news is that the Void will just be unlocked. You will just be able to go to the Void. There will be no keys required, you will just be able to go there. Which, for farming a lot of, like, certain mods and stuff, is really, really good. Being able to have access to those rare crates without burning your keys is really good for getting, I don't remember what the ship is called, one of the ships. That stuff is fine. But, like, the Void projection stuff, it's big news. It is huge news, because we didn't know what they were going to do with the Void until now, and we only kind of know what it is exactly. But I'm very, very worried about it. And I trust that they will try and do the best job they can, and they said on stream that it's like, hey, if we fuck this up, like, we will let them know if it's fucked up, and then they will work to fix it. Which is, like, that is as much as I can reasonably ask, because, like, you can only do so much with internal testing and what, like, you think is appropriate, but, like, what the player base is, like, gonna how the player base generally reacts, I think is something that they can't really predict in a lot of ways. So yeah. I mean, it's gonna be something. It's gonna definitely be something. If it's gonna be something good, I don't know. But that's Devstream 76. And, I'll see you guys tomorrow.